What if I told you that all of the most successful people in this world have one thing in common? They all optimize their energy levels. They understand that more energy equals more time, which equals more success. It doesn't really matter who you ask. Elon Musk says this: you don't need more time in your day, you need more energy. We have Tony Robbins. The higher your energy levels, the more efficient your body. The more efficient your body, the better you feel, and the more you'll use your talent to produce outstanding results. It doesn't really matter who you ask. All the most successful people, whether it's entrepreneurs, business owners, creative people, actors, you name it, they are all able to reach their highest potential because they're able to leverage their high energy levels to get way more done than most other people they are competing with. And that's why today I'm going to show you the secret of never running out of energy, so you can go from being a normal energy level person to being the highest potential you could possibly be by leveraging your energy levels. So maybe you're asking, why should I listen to you? Well, basically, I'm a health coach and I specialize in optimizing energy levels in high performers. I also specialize in optimizing cognition and basically getting people to the highest potential so they can build their businesses, so they can be better at whatever they're trying to be better at and reach their highest potential. And you can see what some of my clients are saying here. At the bottom here, I have Mitch Wasson, who is someone I worked with relatively recently. He basically says, my energy has been so high recently that it's almost freaky sometimes. Basically, we are not really used to having high energy levels nowadays. We think we have normal energy levels because we all sort of run around in the same state. But when I help people get to peak energy, you very often hear the same phrase: oh, I didn't actually realize this was possible. And that's what I really want to tap into today. We want to get beyond what's normal and we want to get optimized with our energy levels. And I have so many of my clients reporting the same results. You can see I have more here. I have Laszlo, I have Henry, other high performers who are trying to optimize their level to the highest possible state. So I have such a long track record of basically helping people. I get messages like this: Jonas, thank you. I swear I'm peaking these days. I've had to cut out the coffee because it's too much. I feel like I'm peaking all day. This is very common, that this is the response our body has once we sort of get it out of the normie state, as we could call it, with the low energy levels that we have really become used to as modern humans. So this is just more proof to show you that what I do works, and what I teach here is actually going to be able to take you to the next level when it comes to your energy levels, cognition, and take you towards your highest potential. So you can pause and read these if you want to. I'm gonna move on now. And I'm gonna go into a bit of my own story, because all of these transformations that I'm having with other people now, it basically started with myself. So when I was younger, when I was at age 12, as you can see in this photo, and also before that, I suffered massively from chronic diseases. I had asthma very severely. I had very severe allergies and stuff like that. Basically, I couldn't breathe, so I was admitted to the hospital, as you can see in this photo, just so they could put this mask on me so I could breathe. And I was basically told by all of the people around me, including my family, that this was just normal and I would have to get used to living with chronic disease, and this is just how people in the modern world live today. We have to use medications and we have to get used to not being at our peak self, basically. But obviously I didn't really accept this, so I immediately started to look into alternative solution and started to try to take my own health into my own hands. And so I really started working out a lot, and you can see here, this is me at age 20. I really got into natural bodybuilding. I started lifting. I started going on the bodybuilder diet, chicken breast, rice, broccoli. And as you can see, I did have results, in the sense that I had gotten bigger muscles and I definitely look healthier. But I still had internal symptoms that were weighing me down. I still had low energy levels from doing this bodybuilder diet with the chicken breast and the rice and the broccoli. I also still had my asthma. I had sort of low libido. So I still had all of these weird symptoms. And it really made me think, okay, what can I actually do to fix these symptoms? I don't only want to look good, I also want to feel good, and I want to be performing at a high level every single day. And I know this was possible because I saw other people at that state. So I just started experimenting a lot. I started trying all these different diets. I went plant-based, I went carnivore, I went keto. I basically tried it all. And that's when I really started thriving, was when I started experimenting more and finding my own unique diet and what really worked for me. I don't really believe in any of these dogmatic diets, the carnivore, plant-based. I don't think those work for anyone, and that's what I figured out. I found my own way. I sort of put together everything I learned from all those different diets, and I achieved something that was just able to take me to that high level state where I just had energy levels that were way higher than I was used to. My cognition was much sharper. I had zero asthma. I didn't have allergies anymore. I didn't have bloating anymore. I had high libido. I basically started thriving. So this is me at age 24 when I had figured all of this out. I had spent years researching all these diets and trying all these diets as well. And I basically put them all together and I came up with this equation that just seems to work for me. And I remember I was in university at the time and people were sort of surprised that all of a sudden I was able to answer all the questions during the classes and stuff, and they were like, what happened to you, Jonas? And the only thing I could really say was, I think I'm just eating really good lately. And it was true. I had definitely discovered something that just put me above the rest very quickly and very rapidly. And today I'm 26 and I'm at my highest energy levels ever. I have my sharpest cognition yet. I dropped out of university. It simply wasn't suitable for me and the lifestyle I wanted to live, with this increase of energy and cognition that I achieved from changing my diet and my health in these ways that I'm about to show you. So I'm definitely in the best shape of my life now, and I definitely attribute that to my journey going from chronically diseased to the bodybuilding part of me that was still feeling slightly non-optimized, shall we say, to really just trying all these different things, researching so much, and finding my own sort of blueprint and framework, which I'm going to be sharing part of that with you today. So that was just a brief explanation of my own story and how I came to what I'm going to talk about now. And what it made me realize in this journey was that, number one, everyone is so confused nowadays when it comes to health and especially nutrition. That's why you see so many dogmatic diets out there. You see people saying you can only eat meat. You see people saying you can only eat plants. You see keto people saying you can only eat fat. You see carbohydrate pushers saying the opposite, you can only eat carbs. No one knows what to eat nowadays. And this is what I realized when I tried all of these different diets. Everyone is basically so confused about what to eat. And it's something that's very new because we never really had these problems as humans before in history. It's only something that's come with the modern world and the influx of processed foods and all of these different options we have nowadays, that people have sort of become distracted into what really matters when it comes to health. So I'm trying to destroy some of that confusion with what I'm about to talk about today, because I do not believe in any of these diets. And I believe that eating healthy is actually very simple once you understand the core concept that makes foods and modern dieting healthy. And that's what I'm going to talk about a bit here. The second thing I realized was that no one knows what normal feels like. So when I was chronically diseased and when I was on my bodybuilder diet and still having sort of low energy but big muscles, I felt normal. I thought I was normal. I didn't really think I could have higher energy or whatever. And maybe you're in the same boat. Maybe you wake up, you drink your coffee, you feel like you can do your work and whatever. We sort of just feel like this is normal because everyone else feels like it. And that's why no one really ever taps in to what normal is actually supposed to feel like. And that's what I discovered once I really started optimizing in the correct ways. Normal is not drinking coffee and having afternoon crashes and feeling fatigued after eating all day, or having skin issues or feeling bloated all the time. None of that is normal. Normal is having peak high natural energy levels all day, to the point where you can just work all day if that's what you need to, and just generally feeling like you have abundant energy levels and the cognition required to do all of your daily tasks in the most effective way possible. So that's why today I'll teach you the fundamental principle that really matters when it comes to health, so you can achieve sky-high natural energy levels effortlessly and quickly. So let's get into it. It all starts with understanding one key thing: the gut. The gut is the most important aspect of health in the modern world, and this is what so many people are missing, and this is why there's so much confusion in terms of diets and what we have to eat, because no one understands that if you don't have the gut aspect sorted, then it doesn't really matter what you eat. You're not going to see the benefits that you're looking for with the certain diet that you're on, whether that's carnivore, plant-based, keto, whatever. So the ancient philosopher Hippocrates, he has this famous saying, all disease begins in the gut. And obviously he made that statement a long time ago, before we had any scientific understanding of the gut microbiome and the gut lining and all of the important factors in that regard. We see so many studies and research nowadays moving more and more towards the fact that pretty much everything within our health and within our body is regulated from our gut, even to the point of our brain. Actually, especially when it comes to our brain. Our gut is what produces so many different neurotransmitters that regulate our mental state. It produces 95% of serotonin, which is sort of the calming happiness hormone. It produces GABA and many other things that is important for regulating high energy and optimized cognition. And also we have things like very significant diseases, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, depression, again, this mental aspect. It all stems from which kind of bacteria and what microbial diversity you have in your gut. But there's just no limit to what we can achieve if we optimize our gut. So that's what I really want to talk about here today. Again, we have here the gut-brain axis. We can see how much it influences things like nutrient delivery, microbial balance, secretion, motility, and how those things in turn impact our stress, anxiety, mood, and especially in terms of what we are going to talk about today, energy levels. Gut health is so important when it comes to energy levels. So let's try to understand why that is. So if you have an optimized gut, you'll have many more enzymes, you'll have many more probiotics, as we call them, beneficial bacteria basically in your gut. You'll have more of them, you'll have more colonies, and you'll have more diversity. And that diversity will be able to extract way more energy from the food you're eating than someone who just has a normal gut. So an optimized gut will literally give you supercharged energy levels. It will make your cognition hyper-focused, and you'll just become a productivity machine because everything you put into your gut, the food you're eating, the water you're drinking, the supplements you're taking, they'll be able to get extracted and turned into the things that are actually going to support all of the different processes that you want them to support in your body. Whereas if you have no enzymes or you have no microbial diversity in your gut, you won't be able to extract enough nutrition from your food, not enough energy either. Maybe you'll only get 50% of the energy from the food you're eating, whereas you're supposed to get 100%, obviously. So you'll feel fatigued, you'll have brain fog, and you'll just generally be very unproductive compared to someone who has an optimized gut. So then the big question is obviously, how do we optimize our gut to get improved energy and cognition? And it starts with step one. You have to cut out the problems. So we have many different problematic contents that we fill our guts with nowadays. And most people don't really realize that this is actually rubbing their energy levels and just generally impacting their health negatively. So I'm going to go over a few of those now. So the first thing we want to cut out, or at least severely limit, is a bit of a controversial one. It's vegetables. Yes, I'm serious, vegetables. So obviously we've been told a lot by the mainstream sources nowadays that vegetables are where we get all of our nutrients and they're very important and all of this. But this has actually turned out to be quite a bit of a misunderstanding. So when it comes to the nutrients in vegetables, they're not bioavailable. They're not in their bioavailable complexes. For example, the vitamin A in a carrot is beta carotene. It's not retinol. So it has to get converted by the body. And that conversion process is not very effective in a lot of people. And if their gut is disrupted, they can't even convert it at all. So for a lot of people, vegetables are not the places where you're going to get your nutrients. But more importantly, when it comes to gut health, many vegetables contain what is known as anti-nutrients. You can also call them plant defense chemicals. These are basically natural toxins that the plants use to defend themselves. You have phytic acid, you have protease inhibitors, and many other anti-nutrients and plant defense chemicals. And these have various negative side effects when you eat them. They sort of are very hard to digest. That's why if you try to eat something like raw kale or raw broccoli, you'll have very much digestive discomfort. You'll have bloating and all of this. That's basically the anti-nutrients at work. So contrary to popular belief, we really want to actually limit the amounts of raw vegetables we're eating. If you are eating vegetables, try to cook them or sprout them or process them in some kind of way, because that reduces the anti-nutrient content. But for a lot of people who are trying to optimize their gut, it is actually very helpful to just straight up cut out the vegetables. And as I said, they are not the place where we are getting our nutrition anyway, so you're not really losing a lot of value by cutting them out. And it's just something that pretty much everyone just eats nowadays because they think it's healthy, but they don't really make the connection that it's actually something that's often harming their gut. Try to cut out the vegetables from the diet. That will be step one of cutting out the problems. Other things we want to cut out is things like beans and legumes and grains, basically. It's a similar issue. They often have high amounts of phytic acid, which steals your minerals and again releases these natural toxins inside your gut, if you want to call it that, that sort of impairs your digestion and just, they're basically trying to teach you not to eat them. And they do that because plants obviously can't defend themselves. And if you think about what a grain actually is, it's the reproductive part of the plant. It's the part that it wants to protect the most. And since it can't run away or anything, it has to fill itself with some kind of defense mechanism. And that is what the anti-nutrients really is. And that's what it's in there to try to achieve. It's trying to tell animals like us humans when we eat it, hey, don't eat this. This is my most precious part and I want to protect it. And that's why we have those problematic contents in there. So the next thing we really want to avoid is gluten. A lot of people today talk about gluten intolerance, but basically we are all actually gluten intolerant. Especially today, because modern wheat just has so much gluten in there, because we have selectively bred it over time to have more and more gluten, because higher gluten amounts in wheat creates like more airy and more delicious bread basically. So that's why most of our bread today just have way too much gluten. And again, gluten is an anti-nutrient. It's a plant defense chemical that really disrupts our gut. So you really want to avoid it as much as possible. You can get more ancient grains like einkorn and emmer and kamut, which has more natural levels of gluten and are much more tolerable. Also, there's something about ancestry that plays a part here. So for example, if you have an Italian who has had ancestors who have eaten a lot of gluten, basically pasta bread, over time, he will naturally produce more gluten enzymes in his gut just because of his ancestry. So there are things that make some people tolerate gluten better than others. But for pretty much anyone, in my opinion, you just want to cut it out for at least 2 weeks, and you'll see that you will actually feel better and you will have much better gut health and even higher energy levels. And once you try to put the gluten back into your diet again in the form of bread or pasta or anything, you can actually notice the negative effects it has on you. So most people don't really notice the negative effects on a daily basis. Most people eat gluten every day, and that's why they can't really feel the effect it has on them. They have gotten basically used to being impacted by gluten. And then the last one here is seed oils. Maybe you've heard about this. It's become very popular. Seed oils is a very inflammatory food. Again, another thing that is something people eat every single day, especially if you go out to restaurants. Pretty much all restaurants, no matter how fancy they are, will use seed oils because it's cheap, it's flavor neutral. But again, it's very bad for your body. It's a very processed oil, and it just creates all this inflammation in your body and especially in your gut. So when we're saying vegetable oil, we mean things like soybean oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, etc. Those are the things you really want to avoid. And here's just a quick pro tip. If you're someone who wants to go out to eat, but you want to avoid seed oils, there's actually a website called Local Fats where you can just put your address in and you can see local nearby restaurants that actually use things that are not seed oils to cook their food in, such as beef tallow or coconut oil. Better options basically. So that's just a cool little thing that I wanted to share. Okay, so now we're getting to step 2 of optimizing our gut. And here we want to focus on easy to digest foods. So what are those? First of all, we have meat. Meat is very easy for our gut to digest in a lot of cases if we don't overdo it, because meat is basically very close to our own tissue and there are not any anti-nutrients or plant defense chemicals, because the way an animal defends itself is by obviously attacking you or running away. It's very bioavailable, it's very close to our own tissue, and that's why our gut, it can quickly recognize the meat you get into your gut, and there's not a lot of byproducts that need to be removed. There's no, again, plant defense chemicals or toxins in there. It's just pretty much straight up synthesized into the body and turned into nutrition and fat and protein to support muscle and so on. So meat is something that you want to build your diet around. You want to go for as high quality meat as possible. So if you're going for beef, for example, you want grass-fed beef, organic. You want lamb that's grass-fed. If you're going for pork, you want pasture-raised, organic. And this is because if you're going for something like conventional pork, that pork is going to be filled with antibiotics. It's going to be filled with toxins from the GMO crops that they're being fed, all the grain and stuff. So it's basically going to have a lot of toxins and a lot of antibiotic residue. And when you get that antibiotic residue into your gut, it's going to have a negative impact on your own gut diversity and gut flora. So that's why you really want to optimize towards the highest quality meat when you eat it. And you don't want to have a bunch of low quality meat in your diet, because that's not going to support your gut health at all. That will do the opposite. But if you do get high quality meat, it can be very, very easy to digest and just a good food to build your whole diet around. And another easy to digest food is dairy, specifically raw dairy. So raw dairy means dairy that has not been processed by pasteurization or homogenization. And some places in the world this can be kind of hard to find, but other places it's very easy. So you have things like raw milk, raw cheeses, raw yogurt, raw butter. Those things are very good sources of raw bioavailable nutrients and energy. Okay, so then we just have some other options here that are very easy to digest that you can focus on in your diet. We have eggs. Again, with eggs, you want to go high quality, pasture-raised, organic, because if you go for conventional eggs, again, they're going to be filled with antibiotics and chemicals, which is going to impact your gut flora negatively. So go for high quality eggs. They also have much more nutrition. They taste better. and it's just a powerhouse of very important fat-soluble vitamins, which also has a lot to say when it comes to energy levels. So with eggs, in order to keep it as gut-friendly as possible, you want to keep the yolk runny, because if you cook it too much, it can sort of oxidize, which can be hard to digest. But you also want to keep the white cooked, actually, because there are some defense proteins, basically biotin inhibitors, in the whites. And if you cook those just slightly, those things will disappear and denature, and you can eat the yolk, and you will have minimal destructive benefits from the whites. So just like in this picture, you have like a cooked white and a raw yolk. That's the best way to consume your eggs. Then we have fruits, and fruits are really the least toxic plant food we have. So fruit is just a very good combination of glucose and fructose and energy that is very easy and natural for your gut to absorb. So I highly recommend you get some high quality fruits in your diet and build your diet around that as well. You have a lot of options there. Obviously, you have berries, and you also have things like dried fruit and whatever. So whatever you have access to, try to incorporate that into your diet as well with these other things. And then I also have honey here. Specifically, again, I'm talking about raw honey. That's definitely the best. You even have probiotics and gut supporting enzymes in raw honey that can really help you extract more nutrients from, for example, fruit or from the other stuff that you're eating. So raw honey is a superfood. Again, something you can find most places is like a jar of local raw honey, and you can use that to make everything else here delicious. So, okay, just to have some other options here that you can focus on that are easy to digest, we have white rice, and technically rice is a grain, but the thing with white rice is that they have removed the husk, so that's what makes it different from brown rice, obviously. So when you remove the husk, you also remove all the anti-nutrients, and that leaves you with just pure carbohydrate energy in the form of white rice. And that's why it's so easy to digest and so effective. So this is something you can make a big staple of your diet. Again, you want to go high quality, because if you go for conventional rice, it has a bunch of arsenic, heavy metals and stuff like that you really want to avoid. It's not going to be helpful for your energy levels or gut health if you eat a lot of that. So just go for some organic rice, rinse it with water when you cook it, and you're gonna be good. You also have things like potatoes and polenta, which is basically cornmeal, I guess, which again are just two other very good starch options that you can include in your meals that are easy to digest. And you can use these to replace the bread and whatever else you would use that is not gut supportive. Just use these and you're gonna have great results. Okay, so now we're gonna move on. I'm not saying you can only eat these foods. I'm just saying try to think about the principles I've talked about here and build your diet around these foods, and that's what's really gonna impact your gut health and make you able to have way higher energy from just not having to spend countless amounts of hours and energy on digesting plant matter and nuts and seeds and gluten. Cutting those things out and just introducing these things instead and focusing on them is gonna make you have great results. So then we're gonna move on to step 3, which is to rebuild gut diversity. So that basically means we want to increase the amount of beneficial bacteria and probiotics and enzymes we have in our gut so that we're able to extract more energy and nutrients from the food we're eating. And I'm gonna show you some very effective and very powerful ways to do this. First step we have is to make raw milk kefir. So I have a bunch of videos in this channel that go in depth into kefir, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. All I'm going to say is that this is basically the highest probiotic food that we could possibly consume. It's made with a natural culture called kefir grains, which ferments milk and fills it with a lot of enzymes and probiotics that are very, very gut supportive. And you can drink kefir with your meals, for example, to extract more energy and more nutrients from that meal. And just this stuff will just make you feel amazing. So just get this in your diet, and you can make it yourself at home. It's pretty easy. Some places you can also get raw kefir. You don't want to just go to the store and buy the thing that says kefir, because very often it's not actually real kefir. It's not made with kefir grains. It's just like a powdered culture. It's more close to yogurt, which is fine, but it's nowhere near the level of kefir. Yogurt has maybe 4 to 5 different strains of bacteria and enzymes, whereas real raw homemade kefir can have up to 60 different bacterial strains. So it's just a whole nother league, and you can't find anything that's close to this. So definitely get some kefir. And we also just have straight up raw milk. Again, I have videos on raw milk on this channel that you can look at if you want to get the full picture. But basically it's a similar concept as with kefir. It's just filled with probiotics and natural enzymes in a very living state that can just immediately go in and support your gut health immensely and make you extract way more energy from the food you're eating. So if you're lucky, raw milk is legal in your area and you can just go into a store and buy a nice big jug like this one. Or maybe you have to go to a local farm. There is this site called getrawmilk.com that you can put in your address and you can see if there's any raw milk vendors close to you. But it doesn't work at all locations, so sometimes you have to be a little creative and you have to do a little digging, basically to find raw milk. But definitely a very powerful food that you want to get in there as well to rebuild your gut diversity. And then some other options here that are pretty effective at rebuilding gut diversity. We have things like sauerkraut, we have things like kimchi. And these are, again, fermented foods that are filled with enzymes, probiotics that can help our gut. I wouldn't put these at the same level as raw milk kefir and raw milk, but they are still in the like A tier of gut supporting food, basically. And something else I wanted to just briefly mention here that is sort of related to rebuilding your gut diversity is that a very effective way that you can also get more nutrition and digest things easier when you eat your meals is to include a digestive aid with your meals. So that could be, for example, some people do apple cider vinegar. That's a digestive aid. It could also be pickles, which have been obviously fermented in vinegar and stuff like that. It could even be ketchup. Like the reason a lot of people crave ketchup with their meals is basically because of the vinegar component that makes them able to easier digest the food. And that's why that flavor combination is something that appeals to people so much, because you include that amount of vinegar with whatever you're eating, your gut is going to have an easier opportunity to break that down and turn it into energy. So that was just a quick side note that I also wanted to talk about briefly here as well. If you feel like you're having trouble digesting your food or you want to just maximize it as much as possible, try to get a good quality digestive aid in there, apple cider vinegar, pickles, whatever else you can find that's sort of pickled, or even a good organic ketchup can do wonders in terms of this. Okay, and now we're getting to step 4, which is about rebuilding the gut wall. So the concept here is that your gut has this very crucial and important protective layer that sort of keeps out food particles, it keeps out toxins. And in almost all people nowadays, I would say at least 95% of people, they have this thing called leaky gut syndrome. So that basically means there is a hole in their gut wall and they're getting negative bacteria, they're getting negative toxins, they're getting all this stuff through that gut wall, which just keeps their health at a lower level. And it's one of the biggest issues that a lot of people are facing nowadays is how to rebuild this gut wall that has been damaged. Maybe it could be from medications you've taken early in life, like antibiotics, very often destroys our gut wall, and we have to sort of rebuild it again. And it's basically made up of a mucus, sort of gel-like structure that when it's in its optimized state, it's able to keep everything that's supposed to be out, and it's able to take in all the good things in a very efficient way. So it's just another part of gut health that's very important to target. And I'm going to show you some ways that we can do that here. So one of the really effective methods I like to rebuild the gut wall in my clients is to use a very powerful concentrated bone broth. So you can see here in the first picture, bone broth, it has this sort of gel-like structure. It's actually almost the same structure as you would find inside your gut wall. And that sort of also tells you that this is something you should be eating to rebuild that, because it contains the same constituents that gut wall is made out of. It contains collagen, peptides, it contains the right amount of amino acids that you need to build that gut wall. So it's just a very powerful food in general for gut health. You can buy bone broth many places at a good quality. You can also very easily make it yourself out of, for example, beef bones or a chicken carcass soup kind of thing. And you can just drink it in a cup, like a cup of tea. You can make meals with it, so you can make like rice dishes, or you can throw meat in there, whatever. There's a lot of options there. It's basically a broth, and you can also eat it cold if you want this like gel-like experience. So there's a lot of different options there. And another very important point when it comes to rebuilding your gut wall is fasting. So I'm not really a huge fan of doing long fasts. A lot of people do that nowadays, and I don't think they have the nutrient storages to do that effectively. And I think they're going to do more harm than good. But I do like shorter fasts, especially for men, because yes, there is actually a difference when it comes to fasting when we're talking men versus women, and I'll get into that in a bit. But basically fasting is a very effective way of sort of slowing down our digestive system, get everything out so it can sort of have room to heal all of the things that we have damaged it with throughout all these years of eating non-optimized food and taking medications and whatnot. So it ties into generally just how the body works. Like if you have a broken leg or if you have a broken finger or whatever, you need to rest that leg or that finger in order for that bone to heal back. It's the same with our gut and our whole gut wall and everything. It needs rest. It needs to not constantly have food in there to actually be able to rebuild itself. And if you give it the right constituents on a daily basis, you do all the things I've talked about here, and then you give it that rest to start rebuilding as well, you're gonna see immense results when it comes to your whole gut health and your whole energy levels in general. And fasting also has a bunch of other benefits that we can get into in another video. I don't really want to go into that here because it's a very long story. So let me know if you want to see a video on fasting someday where I can go more in depth with how I think you should do this in the most optimized way. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you follow these 4 steps, I promise you'll start having higher energy and better cognition than 95% of people today. This is just so effective. And obviously there are a lot of things I didn't mention in this video. There are a lot of other things that we could get into. Health in general is a very personal aspect, and especially the diet we're on. There are so many personalized aspects that we need to take into account. Things like genetics, where did your ancestors come from, what did they eat, what things have you been exposed to in your life, what medications have you taken, what nutrient deficiencies do you have, what is your lifestyle, where do you live, what is your environment, and all these different things. And that's why I do personal coaching, and that's why I help clients, because that is basically the most efficient and effective way that I can help people. There is no one size fits all. As I talked about earlier, that's what I learned in my own journey. You can't just go on some diet or do some specific supplement and you're gonna see the same results as everyone else, because we have all of these different personalized aspects that we need to optimize to reach our own unique, individualized potential, basically. So if you're interested in coaching with me, if you want me to help you towards that potential, you can click below and you can learn more about my health coaching and that stuff. And yeah, other than that, just stay healthy and stay energized, everyone.